In this video, I want to ask the audience a question. It's a serious question, and I'll go through the evidence of why I'm asking it in a minute. The question is this: does the handling of this virus amount to torture? On the face of it, it might seem like a ridiculous question, and I can already hear the objections to it. But I'm going to take you through evidence from an Amnesty International report from 1975 where they took a deep look at torture. Constitutes it, what it does to people, and what methods actual torturers have used in this thing called no-touch torture. It's psychological torture, it's mental torture. And by the end of this, I hope that you will see that the question doesn't have an easy answer. In fact, I think you will come to the conclusion that yes, indeed, the responses to this coronavirus in many regions of the world do in fact amount to torture. And they finally come up with a concrete definition that they use for the remainder of their report, and it is this. The definition of torture adopted here is: torture is the systematic and deliberate infliction of acute pain in any form by one person on another or on a third person in order to accomplish the purpose of the former against the will of the latter. TLDR, they want to force people to do something as a stress. In physical torture, of course, one of the big things that they do is they bind people into very uncomfortable body positions. And we've seen this over and over. And that is body stress, that's physical stress. But torture can be a mental stress too. In this section, Amnesty International describes torture as stress, and they go through acute, short-lived shock response type stress, subacute, medium-term stress, which produces anxiety response but allows the victim to maintain morale and personal integrity, and then through to the chronic response to stress, which is long-standing, and it includes depression, suicidal ideation, dissociation, derealization, regression, becoming accident-prone, a loss of will to live, and possibly suicide. This is the stage the torturers want people to get to. So you're super stressed, you develop bronchial symptoms, and you go to the doctor, and they're going to lump you in with the COVID people, thereby increasing your stress and putting you into their system more deeply. Nobody wants to be involved in this contact tracing thing or be forced to be intubated or be separated from their loved ones. Nobody wants that. So it's an evil genius of this type of torture that I say we're under right now, that our stress responses themselves are used against us. Amnesty International goes on to describe how people are manipulated and how they resist. I argue that in our current situation with the coronavirus torture, what they want from their victims, all of us, is basically for us to regress to a childlike state, because the only thing they want from us is for us to blindly obey them. They don't need answers from us. They need exactly nothing from us. They just want to control us completely. I think it's clear that the steps they are taking in the name of COVID-19 amount to coercion, which amounts to torture. Torture is the systematic and deliberate infliction of acute pain in any form, so mental or psychological too, by one person on another or on a third person in order to accomplish the purpose of the former against the will of the latter, may be inflicted on prisoners of war. I can hear them now. Well, you're not prisoners of war, so technically it doesn't count. But the spirit is there, and we are being coerced. So what they're doing to us is in violation of the spirit of the Geneva Convention. The next element of torture, number 3, there is implicit in the notion of the torture that the torturer wants the victim to submit. The torturer wants to break the victim in order to destroy his humanity. It is established that coercive techniques are being used by public health and their lackeys in media, government, etc. It is established that public health wants the public to submit to many social, economic, and behavioral changes. Many in the public object to these changes, but their concerns are being ignored at best and punished at worst. The political response to citizen objections has been to step up the coercive techniques against the electorate rather than to hold hearings or compromise with the electors. We can conclude, therefore, that the torturer wants the victim to submit, in this case of COVID-19. They are not listening to what the electorate wants. They are trying to force us to submit. And therefore, I believe that matches with one of the criteria of the elements of torture. Since they are moving us along and prolonging the stress, they are bringing us all into the chronic stage where the victims of the coercion become broken and their compliance will be all but guaranteed. So when we look at whether or not there's a systematic, rational reason for the enacting of this torture, that's the reason. They need to break us. They want to break our spirit and our resistance to the Great Reset, or the Green New Deal, or the Fourth Industrial Revolution, or the New World Order, whatever words you like. And the reason they need to break us before they bring it in fully, is because the elements of this plan, the New World Order plan, the Fourth Industrial Revolution plan, are so extreme and radical that they know they would be fought on every front. In many areas all over the world, this would be a very long implementation process for them. So if they can weaken us in advance through this COVID thing, break up family relationships, destroy the bonds between people, get children out of school, overwork parents, throw hundreds of thousands, millions and millions of people out of work, and continue dangling this threat that the pandemic might come back any day over our heads, we will be demoralized by all of this if they let it go on long enough. And through that demoralization, they can eliminate hard currency. They can put all schooling online. They can change to telehealth. They can let NGOs and tech companies take over policing. And you see all of it. You see all of that happening right now, among other things. So is the torture a systematic activity with a rational purpose? To them it is. They have put this collectivist mentality into so many people that, in effect, the torturers are now being joined by many of their victims who are helping them torture their other fellow citizens. I could go on and on and on about this topic, and I've missed a great deal of what I had planned to say because it's just getting too long. But please add your comments down below of the things this brings to mind and answer the original question that I posed. Does the handling of this virus amount to torture?